Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the show that takes a big topic, digs through all the noise, and pulls out the interesting stuff you really need to know.
And today, oh boy, do we have a topic. We are cracking open a book that, well, it wasn't just popular, it absolutely dominated everything for years.
We are talking, of course, about Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code.
That's the one.
And, I've always wondered why. Why this specific book? It wasn't just a bestseller. It was this genuine global phenomenon.
The numbers are just staggering, aren't they?
Totally. I mean, think about it. Back in 2009, it had already sold over 80 million copies around the world.
Wow.
Translated into 44 languages, and then obviously the blockbuster movie with Tom Hanks.
Right, the whole Hollywood machine got behind it.
But here's the thing that gets me, and probably gets you too. Thousands of books come out every year. Lots of thrillers, lots of mysteries, some might say. Well, mediocre ones.
Sure, the market's flooded.
So why this one? What was the secret sauce? How did the Da Vinci Code become this massive cultural touchstone that pretty much everyone knew about?
Even if they hadn't read it.
Exactly. It sparked endless discussions, arguments, even those guided tours in Paris and Rome. What was it about this story that just grabbed everyone and wouldn't let go?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's right at the heart of what we want to unpack in this deep dive.
Okay.
Because at its core, the Da Vinci Code threw readers headfirst into this really intense quest.
Yeah.
It starts with a murder, right? A curator killed inside the Louvre.
Yeah, very dramatic opening.
And our hero, Harvard symbologist Robert Langdon, gets called in. Suddenly, he's on this frantic hunt for the Holy Grail.
But not the cup, like in the movies.
Exactly, not the traditional Grail. The book claims Langdon uncovers these long-buried secrets about how Christianity actually started.
Okay.
And it weaves this whole conspiracy secrets about Jesus and Mary Magdalene supposedly hidden in Leonardo da Vinci's art.
Right, the connection to Da Vinci, hence
Right.
the title.
Precisely. It's that mix, isn't it? Modern-day action thriller meets ancient historical intrigue. That's a powerful hook.
Definitely.
So our mission today is to get past all that hype. Let's really look at the reactions of the fans who absolutely believed it, the critics who, well, savaged it.
And everyone in between.
Yeah. We need to dig into the specific claims, the controversies, and see how they actually stack up against, documented history, art history, religious studies.
All right, let's do it. Where should we start? Maybe with the writing itself.
Yeah.
Because that was immediately something people either loved or really didn't.
Oh, absolutely. The style itself was incredibly polarizing.
For a lot of readers, myself included back then, it was just addictive, a pure page-turner.
That's the word you hear constantly. Page-turner.
Yeah, people called it a popcorn read, Really entertaining, a great escape, maybe a guilty pleasure for some.
Especially if you read it younger, right? Like at 15, it might seem amazing.
Exactly. There was this feeling for some that, okay, maybe it wasn't high literature, maybe it felt a bit tired after a while, but you just had to keep reading.
It has that relentless quality. Short chapters, cliffhanger endings.
It definitely knows how to keep you hooked psychologically.
Yeah.
That constant forward motion, the promise of the next secret revealed.
And for many people, that is what they want in a read. That predictable structure, that constant plot progression. It's easy, it's satisfying, like a dopamine hit every few pages.
It's true. But then there was the other side, the criticism.
The criticism was fierce. Often really cutting, sometimes just brutal.
What were the main complaints?
Well, people describe the writing as clumsy, ungrammatical, repetitive, and yes, repetitive.
The irony. And you had big names weighing in. Stephen King's famous line.
Oh, yeah, the Kraft macaroni and cheese comparison.
Exactly. He called it the intellectual equivalent of Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
That's pretty harsh for a fellow writer.
Ouch. So what specific things did critics latch onto? Well, one big one was tautology. Saying the same thing twice in different words.
Like unnecessary repetition.
Precisely. It's generally seen as a writing flaw because it's redundant, adds nothing. And Brown's books are full of examples that became almost legendary.
I remember people joking about it.
Yeah, like someone commenting online, his unnecessary tautology lol. And the funny thing is, tautology is unnecessary by definition. So calling it unnecessary tautology is itself a tautology.
It's brilliant. It folds in on itself.
It really does. It's like that old joke, right? The first rule of the tautology club is the first rule of the tautology club.
Or the redundancy club version. The first rule of the redundancy club is the initial rule.
Exactly. It's that kind of circular, flawed logic.
Yeah.
And you see it in common phrases, too. Things Brown used.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, like the armed gunman. Well, yeah, he's a gunman. He's probably armed. Or the single bachelor.
Redundant. A bachelor is single.
Right. The evening sunset. When else does the sun set? Or, I went down there and saw to it personally. If you went, it was personal.
Okay, I see. Little redundant phrases sprinkled everywhere.
All over the place, sometimes to the point where it just pulls you out of the story. Someone even found one on a sushi place's website, as healthy as the ingredients it is made from.
Which means nothing, really. It sounds like it should mean something, but it's just circular.
Exactly. It was probably meant to say made from healthy ingredients, but yeah, ended up a perfect tautology.
Okay, so tautology was one thing. What else?
Another common gripe, really repetitive character descriptions, especially the female protagonists.
Yes, I remember this one.
It seemed like every single one had olive skin and dark hair, every time.
Like he had a very specific type.
Exactly. Someone joked he had a type Mediterranean. It just made the characters feel a bit interchangeable after a while. Lacked variety.
Yeah, those little things can break the spell, can't they? Pull you right out. And weren't there also just some famously awkward sentences?
Oh, absolutely. Critics loved pulling these out, called them worst sentences or, my favorite, drunken wrong thoughts.
Drunken wrong thoughts. That's harsh. Like what?
Things like, I like the attractive woman, thought the successful man. Just incredibly clunky internal monologue.
Okay, yeah. A bit too on the nose.
Or the truly bizarre. He paced the bedroom using the feet located at the ends of his two legs.
As opposed to his elbow feet.
Right. Or even simpler, he reached for the telephone using one of his two hands. It's like, why state the obvious in such a weird way?
It sounds like an alien trying to describe human actions.
It really does. There was one describing a pool shot. Center ball of the triangle square on with such force that a striped ball spins and plunges into the top right pocket. It just sounds off, not how a human would describe it.
Trying too hard to sound technical, maybe.
Perhaps. And then the infamous elevator line. The elevator whisks me with terminal velocity to the 20th floor.
Terminal velocity isn't like falling really fast.
Exactly. It's the maximum speed something reaches when falling due to gravity and air resistance. You definitely do not want your elevator moving at terminal velocity.
Definitely not. Wow. These are quite something. How did they even get published?
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Maybe rushed editing. Maybe just a disregard for that kind of precision.
And beyond just the sentences, didn't people criticize the plots too?
Oh.
Being too similar?
Oh, yeah. Hugely formulaic. That was a massive critique across his books, not just Da Vinci Code.
What was the formula, people pointed out?
Someone summed it up pretty well. Every Dan Brown book goes like this. Secret society, evil bad guy, and friend. Climax. Friend was actually enemy.
Ah, the friend is the villain twist.
Secret society is long dead, and friend also hired the bad guy anonymously.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar.
And of course, a hot woman is involved somehow, usually an expert in something related, helping the hero.
The brilliant, attractive sidekick. Got it.
This predictability meant for some readers you could spot the villain chapters in advance. It's always the nth person you meet.
Like, the third significant character introduced is probably the bad guy.
Something like that. And even how characters were introduced, people complained about the blatant tell language, just stating how amazing and famous this guy is, instead of showing it.
Right. Show, don't tell basic writing advice.
Critics called it lazy first-person insert reader service. Just telling you the character is great rather than letting you figure it out.
Okay, so there's definitely a pattern if you read a few of his books. You start seeing the seams.
Yeah.
But, and here's the big but, despite all that criticism, all the mockery from literary circles, the book worked for millions. Those cliffhangers, that relentless pace, it was effective.
Undeniably.
So, it begs the question again. If the writing was so flawed in the eyes of many, what was the magic? What created that insane level of success and cultural impact? It can't just be the short chapters.
No, definitely not. And this is where we get to the real heart of it. The core of the controversy, the source of its notoriety. It was the content. Specifically, its repeated claims of historical and religious truth.
Ah, the fact page at the beginning.
Exactly. And Dan Brown himself, in interviews, leaned into it. He said things like, some of the theories discussed by these characters may have merit.
So he wasn't just saying it's fiction.
He was careful. He said the fact page applied to the documents, rituals, organizations, art, architecture, but that interpreting the ideas from those was up to the reader. A bit of a hedge.
Sounds like trying to have it both ways.
Arguably. But he also said things like, The secret behind the Da Vinci Code was too well documented and significant for me to dismiss. That sounds pretty confident.
Yeah, that implies he believes it.
And that insistence, direct or implied, is what led so many readers, maybe people without deep historical knowledge, maybe, relatives who were devout Christians, to ask, really worried, is this stuff really true?
And the answer.
For the most sensational, history-shaking claims, overwhelmingly, no. And that's where that line between thrilling fiction and historical fact got dangerously blurry for millions.
Okay, let's dive into those claims then. Starting with maybe the biggest one. The Holy Grail itself.
Right.
Most people, when they think Holy Grail, they picture, well, a cup, right? Or maybe a dish. Arthurian legends, Last Supper, miraculous powers.
That's the traditional image, absolutely. Deeply ingrained in Western culture. The cup Jesus used, or the one Joseph of Arimathea used to catch his blood. A symbol of divine grace.
But that's not what the book says it is.
Not at all. And here it borrows heavily from an earlier book, the 1982 nonfiction work, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail.
Okay, what's the connection?
The Da Vinci Code takes the Old French term Saint Graal, Holy Grail, and claims it should actually be parsed as Sang Real.
Sang Real meaning?
Royal blood. That's the claim. So the Grail isn't an object at all.
It's a bloodline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically, Mary Magdalene is the receptacle, the book's term for Jesus' royal bloodline, because, the book claims, they had a child.
Wow, okay, that completely changes the myth. From sacred cup to secret descendant.
Totally transforms it.
Yeah.
But that etymology, that Sang-Rail idea, scholars widely debunk it.
How so?
Well, the word Graal in the earliest Grail romances back in the 12th century, it didn't mean cup. It meant a wide, shallow dish, like a platter, maybe for serving fish?
Not quite as mystical.
Not really. The cup idea seems to have developed later, influenced by other legends. So claiming Sangral always secretly meant royal blood is, well, it's a linguistic stretch based on a later misunderstanding of the word. It's an anachronism.
Okay, so the wordplay doesn't hold up. What about the bloodline idea itself?
From a historical and even biological perspective, it's incredibly problematic. Think about it. Tracing a single, unique bloodline back 2,000 years.
Seems difficult.
It's statistically almost meaningless. As Steve Olson, who wrote Mapping Human History, pointed out, if anyone alive today is descended from Jesus, then probably most people of European or Middle Eastern descent are too.
How does that work?
Just basic math of ancestors. Over that many generations, lineages spread out exponentially. Everyone intermarries. Any single person from 2,000 years ago who has living descendants today likely has millions, maybe billions of them.
So the idea of one specific hidden royal bloodline is unlikely.
Highly unlikely from a genetic standpoint. It makes for a great story, a fantastic conspiracy, but it doesn't align with how human populations actually work.
That's fascinating.
Okay.
Just the sheer numbers involved make it improbable. Okay, so if the Grail is bloodline is shaky, what about the core premise behind it? That Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married.
Right. The book claims they were married, forming this potent political union, and that this truth was deliberately suppressed by the church to sideline women.
That's a huge claim. What's the historical basis?
Well, that's a thing. Historians overwhelmingly dispute it. There is zero mention of a marriage in the Bible.
Okay, not in the canonical Gospels.
Not anywhere. Not in other ancient sources either, canonical or non-canonical, that would credibly suggest they were married.
What about the details the book uses? Like Mary being from the tribe of Benjamin.
That's another specific claim. The book suggests this was significant because of historical tensions between Benjamin and the House of David, Jesus' lineage. But Magdala, her hometown, was in Galilee, up north.
Then Benjamin was.
Down south near Jerusalem. Geographically unlikely. Plus, the New Testament never mentions her tribe. That idea seems to come straight from the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, which didn't really prove it with primary sources either.
So, tenuous links at best. What about the textual evidence the book cites? The Gospel of Philip.
Ah, yes, the companion argument.
Yeah.
The Gospel of Philip, which is a Gnostic text, does refer to Mary Magdalene as Jesus' companion.
And the book claims companion in Aramaic meant wife.
Right, that's what the character Teabing asserts. But there are major problems with that. Firstly, leading experts on Gnostic Gospels, like James M. Robinson, say the word used, koionos, in the original Greek.
Greek, not Aramaic.
The text we have is in Coptic, translated from Greek. There's no Aramaic word in that passage for scholars to analyze.
Okay, so the Aramaic argument is irrelevant to that text.
completely irrelevant. And koinos itself just meant companion or close associate. It didn't automatically imply a marital or sexual relationship.
Especially in a religious context.
Exactly, and particularly in Gnostic texts, where the focus was often on spiritual relationships and esoteric knowledge, not earthly marriage. Gnostics often downplayed the physical world anyway.
So the linguistic evidence is misrepresented, and the historical context doesn't support it either.
Pretty much. No contemporary evidence for a marriage. And the later texts used as proof are misinterpreted.
Wow, okay. This leads us right into another massive area of controversy. The book's claims about the divinity of Christ and early church history.
Yes, this was probably the most explosive part for many religious readers.
The book basically says, right, that before the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, Jesus was just seen as a human prophet.
That's the core assertion, that his followers saw him as a mortal teacher, a great man, but not divine.
And that his divinity, being the Son of God, was essentially voted on in Nicaea like a political decision.
Yeah, the book presents it as Constantine forcing the issue and it being decided by a relatively close vote, as if they just invented the idea of Jesus being God in the 4th century.
That's a radical rewriting of history. How does that hold up?
It doesn't really. Historically, it's just fundamentally wrong. The Council of Nicaea was incredibly important, yes. Constantine called it.
But not to decide if Jesus was divine.
No.
Yeah.
It was called mainly to address the Arian controversy. Arius was teaching that Jesus was a created being subordinate to God the Father. So the debate wasn't if he was divine, but about the nature of his divinity. Was he co-eternal with the Father or created?
Much more nuanced theological debate.
Exactly. Nicaea affirmed the traditional view of Christ's full divinity against the Arian challenge. It didn't invent it. It was about clarifying doctrine, not creating it from scratch.
So the idea of Jesus being seen as God existed long before Nicaea.
Oh, absolutely. We have writings from the early 2nd century, like those of Ignatius of Antioch, who died maybe around 110 AD. He explicitly calls Jesus our God, Jesus the Christ.
Wow, that early.
Yes, and that's not isolated. Even pagan sources mention it. Pliny the Younger, a Roman governor writing around 112 AD, reported that Christians sang hymns to Christ as to a god.
So outsiders observed Christians worshiping Jesus as divine way back then.
Exactly. The evidence strongly contradicts the idea that divinity was a 4th century invention. And the close vote idea, also fiction, the Nicene Creed affirming divinity was overwhelmingly adopted. Only 2 bishops ultimately refused to sign.
Okay, so Nicaea wasn't what the book claims. What about the idea that Constantine suppressed Gnostic Gospels because they showed a human Jesus?
That's another major reversal of the facts. Gnosticism was complex, lots of different groups.
Right.
But generally speaking, Gnostic views often portrayed Jesus as more divine and less human than Orthodox Christianity did.
Really? How so?
Many Gnostics had a very negative view of the physical world, of matter. They believed a truly divine being wouldn't take on a real corruptible human body. So for some Gnostics, Jesus' body was just an illusion, or he was a spirit who briefly inhabited a human form.
So the opposite of the book's claim. They emphasized his otherworldliness.
Often, yes. Some Gnostics even thought the God of the Old Testament, the creator of the physical world, was a lesser, flawed deity. And Christ was an emissary from the true higher God, sent to liberate spirits from material existence.
That's a completely different picture. So Gnostic texts wouldn't necessarily provide a more human Jesus.
Generally, no. They often lack the humanizing details, the focus on his earthly life and suffering that you find in the canonical Gospels. They're more focused on secret knowledge, gnosis.
Okay, that's a really important correction. And speaking of texts, the book mentions more than 80 Gospels, right? And the Dead Sea Scrolls and Nag Hammadi texts as sources for this hidden human Jesus.
Yeah, that idea of a vast library of suppressed knowledge is very appealing, very conspiratorial.
But is it accurate? Were there 80 Gospels?
80 is a huge exaggeration. Yes, there were other early Christian writings, including some called Gospels, but 80 is stretching it dramatically, often counting tiny fragments.
And the Dead Sea Scrolls, did they contain lost Gospels?
Nope. The Dead Sea Scrolls are Jewish documents, really important ones, giving us insight into Judaism around Jesus' time, texts of the Hebrew Bible, writings from the Essene community.
But no Christian documents.
No definite Christian documents at all. Nothing about Jesus, no Gospels, hidden or otherwise. That's a common misconception the book exploits.
Okay, so Dead Sea Scrolls are out. What about Nag Hammadi? Those are Gnostic texts, right?
Yes, the Nag Hammadi Library, found in Egypt in 1945, is our main source for Gnostic writings, like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip we mentioned.
But are they older than the Bible's Gospels? Do they show a more human Jesus?
No, on both counts generally. They are mostly dated to the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, sometimes later. That's after the canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, were written and circulating.
So they aren't the earliest Christian texts.
Definitely not. And as we just discussed, they generally depict a more otherworldly Jesus, focused on secret teachings, not the human details. The Gospel of Thomas is an exception in some ways, but it's just a collection of sayings, no narrative of his life, death, or resurrection.
So again, the book's claims about these texts revealing a suppressed human Jesus are largely unsupported by the texts themselves.
Exactly. It twists the nature and content of these fascinating but very different ancient writings.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, but still in the realm of religious controversy, Opus Dei.
Ah, yes. Poor Opus Dei got quite the treatment in the book and the movie.
The portrayal is incredibly dramatic, isn't it? This secretive, powerful, monastic order demanding blind obedience.
And the killer albino monk, Silas.
Right, Silas with the self-flagellation.
Yeah.
It's a very, frankly, terrifying image. It definitely cemented a dark perception of Opus Dei for millions.
It really did, but how much of that aligns with reality?
Well, let's unpack it. What are the main inaccuracies?
First off, the most basic thing. Opus Dei has no monks. Zero.
No monks at all. Silas isn't a monk.
Nope. It's primarily a lay organization. Ordinary people, men and women, trying to find holiness in their jobs, their family lives. They have celibate members called numeraries who live in centers, but they're not monks in the traditional sense they work in the secular world.
So the monk label in the book is just wrong.
The book actually has Langdon and Nauvoo, the protagonists, mistakenly call Silas a monk, showing their ignorance of Opus Dei. So it's arguably a plot point reflecting their misunderstanding, not necessarily Brown stating Opus Dei has monks. Still, the image stuck.
Okay. What about the self-mortification, the silice and discipline?
That part has a grain of truth, but it's wildly exaggerated. Some members do practice voluntary physical mortification. It's an old Christian tradition practiced by saints like Mother Teresa, Thomas More.
Going as penance or uniting with Christ's suffering.
Exactly, but it's typically minor stuff, maybe fasting, cold showers, or using a silice, which is a small spike chain worn usually on the thigh for maybe a couple of hours a day.
So not the bloody scene in the movie.
Absolutely not. The silice causes discomfort, maybe tiny pinpricks, but it's not meant for serious injury or the kind of violent, bloody flagellation depicted. That's pure sensationalism.
But is it true that only a few members do it? Some critics disagree, right?
That's where it gets complex. Opus Dei often downplays how common it is. But former members, organized in groups like ODAN, Opus Dei Awareness Network, say that for numeraries, using the silice in discipline, a small whip, was expected, even pushed.
And they dispute the description of how it's used.
Yes, Odin claims the discipline is used on the buttocks, not just mildly slapping their backs, as Opus Dei sometimes describes it. So there's definitely conflicting information there, depending on who you ask.
What about Opus Dei's response to the book, the Operation Lemonade thing?
Right. Odin highlighted this PR campaign Opus Dei launched to counter the book's image. The criticism was that Opus Dei tried to hide behind the church, framing attacks on them as attacks on Catholicism itself.
Is that fair? What's their actual status?
They're a personal prelature, which is unique. It means their jurisdiction is over people, wherever they are, not a geographical territory like a diocese. They report directly to the Pope, but it's not necessarily a special relationship above others. Decision-making is supposed to be collegial, not just the leader calling the shots, like in the book.
But critics say the PR campaign masked deeper issues.
Yes. Odan and other former members allege ongoing problems with deceptive recruitment tactics, especially targeting university students, and exerting manipulative control.
Like what kind of control?
Stories about pressure to hand over salaries, cut off old friends, turn over mail to be read by directors, intense pressure to recruit, and threats of eternal damnation for those who question or wanted to leave.
Wow. Okay, so there are serious allegations beyond just the mortification practices.
Definitely. It raises real questions about transparency, influence, and control within the organization, quite separate from the fictional portrayal of killer monks.
So the book's version is sensationalized. But there are real-world controversies and criticisms surrounding Opus Dei as well.
Exactly. The fiction amplified certain elements, ignored others, but tapped into a pre-existing unease for some.
Okay, let's move on to the man himself, the name on the cover, Leonardo da Vinci.
The namesake.
The book certainly put Leonardo front and center,
Mm-hmm.
linking him directly to all these secrets. It must have shaped how a lot of people see him now.
No doubt. But let's start with the absolute most basic error, the one that makes historians cringe every time.
Which is?
His name, Da Vinci. It's not his surname.
Right, you mentioned this. It means from Vinci.
Exactly. Vinci was his hometown. Calling the book the Da Vinci Code is like, well, like calling Lawrence of Arabia Mr. of Arabia, or asking about the teachings of Nazareth.
It just sounds wrong to anyone who knows.
Completely. His name was Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci. Leonardo, son of Messer Piero from Vinci. Using da Vinci as a last name is just a fundamental misunderstanding.
And this basic area sort of extends to other areas, like Langdon's supposed field of expertise.
Yes, symbology. Robert Langdon is a professor of symbology at Harvard in the book.
But that's not a real academic field, is it?
Nope. The actual academic study of symbols and signs is called semiotics. Or you might have art historians specializing in iconography, the study of images and symbols in art. Symbology sounds plausible, but it's a fictional construct for the novel.
Convenient for a hero who needs to interpret symbols everywhere.
Very convenient.
Okay, so the name's wrong, the field's made up. What about the specific claims about his art? Especially the Mona Lisa. It plays a huge role.
Oh, the poor Mona Lisa. The book throws all sorts of theories at it.
Like it being androgynous, representing unified humanity.
Yeah, that it blends male and female.
Hmm?
Or that it's actually a secret self-portrait of Leonardo in disguise.
I remember that one. And the anagram thing.
Right, that Mona Lisa is an anagram for Amon Lisa, supposedly linking it to the Egyptian gods Amon and Isis, hinting at pagan secrets.
These ideas are really compelling, giving the painting this mystical aura. But what do actual art historians say?
Well, the consensus among reputable art historians is far less dramatic. They generally see it as a masterful, groundbreaking portrait of a real woman.
Lisa Gherardini, right? Wife of a merchant.
That's the widely accepted identification, yes? Lisa Gherardini, wife of Francesca da Giocondo, hence its Italian name, La Gioconda.
And the self-portrait idea.
That's mostly based on finding superficial similarities between her face and known images of Leonardo. You can find points of congruency between almost any two faces if you look hard enough. It's not considered serious evidence.
What about the Amon and Isis anagram?
That one's particularly weak. Firstly, Leonardo didn't name the painting Mona Lisa. That name came much later from the biographer of Vasari, decades after Leonardo died.
Ah, so Leonardo couldn't have intended an anagram based on a name he never used.
Exactly. And even the name Vasari used was probably Mona Lisa, with two N's, meaning My Lady Lisa, not Mona. Or it was simply La Gioconda. The anagram just doesn't work with the actual historical naming.
So it falls apart pretty quickly under scrutiny.
Yeah. As one critic joked, if you allow that kind of anagramming, Mona Lisa is also an anagram for no salami. Doesn't mean Leonardo is warning us about cured meats.
Huh, good point. It just shows how easily you can manipulate letters.
Exactly. It's arbitrary.
So the book's theories about Leonardo's art are mostly fiction.
Largely speculative fiction layered onto the real art. But the amazing thing is, the real Leonardo da Vinci needs no fictional embellishment to be fascinating.
True. He was a genuine polymath.
Absolutely. A true Renaissance man. His notebooks alone are mind-blowing. Anatomy, astronomy, botany, geology, cartography, engineering, painting, sculpture. The list goes on.
He was involved in everything.
And his famous mirror writing? The book hints it was for hiding secrets, maybe Grail secret.
But the real reason was probably more mundane.
Most likely he was left-handed. Writing right to left in mirror script would have prevented him from smudging the ink as he wrote.
Huh, practical.
Or maybe, as some suggest, it was a way to keep his inventions and engineering ideas slightly more secure from prying eyes and industrial espionage, which was a real thing back then.
So practical reasons, not mystical ones.
Probably. He was undoubtedly a genius, obsessed with observation and understanding the world, but his secrets were likely scientific and artistic, not coded messages about Jesus' love life.
Okay. So, given that the book borrowed so heavily from existing theories, maybe misrepresented history and art, It's not surprising it faced legal challenges, right? Plagiarism accusations.
Not surprising at all. When a book becomes that massive, selling millions and making billions, people who feel their work contributed are going to take notice. And charges of copyright infringement definitely flew.
Which was the biggest case?
Undoubtedly the one brought by Michael Bagent and Richard Lee. They wrote The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail back in 1982.
The book you mentioned earlier, the source for the Grail is bloodline idea.
Exactly. Their book laid out almost all the core historical theories that Brown used. Jesus married Mary Magdalene, they had children, the bloodline survived, protected by secret societies like the Priory of Zion, all of it.
So what was their specific claim against Brown?
They argued he didn't just borrow ideas, which you can do, but that he lifted the whole architecture, the entire structure and arrangement of their research, their whole jigsaw puzzle, and just slapped a fictional plot on top.
And they had some pretty specific evidence, didn't they? The character name?
Ah, yes. Sir Leigh Teabing, the Grail scholar character in the Da Vinci Code. His first name is Lee. His last name, Teabing, is a very obvious anagram of Bagent.
That seems pretty blatant. Hard to argue that's a coincidence.
You would think. It felt like a smoking gun to many observers. Surely that acknowledged a debt, right?
So what happened in court?
It was a huge trial in London, very high profile. But surprisingly, perhaps, the court ruled in Dan Brown's favor.
He won.
The judge decided that while Brown clearly used ideas from Holy Blood, Holy Grail, he did not substantially copy the expression of those ideas in a way that violated copyright law. Ideas themselves aren't copyrightable, only the specific way they are presented.
Okay. That's a key legal distinction.
And the judge actually made a pretty sharp comment about Bagent and Lee's book, saying it did not have a central theme in the way its author suggested, and called their argument an artificial creation for the purposes of the litigation working back from the Da Vinci Code.
Oof. Basically saying they retrofitted their own book's argument to match Brown's for the lawsuit.
That was the implication. It was a major defeat for Bagent and Lee.
Wow. But didn't the judge do something weird in the ruling itself?
Oh, yeah. This is the truly bizarre part. The judge, Sir Peter Smith, embedded his own secret code within the text of his judgment.
You're kidding. Why?
Apparently just for fun. There were seemingly random italicized letters scattered through the ruling. When decoded, they spelled out, "Smithy code Jackie Fisher, who are you, Dreadnought?"
What does that even mean?
Jackie Fisher was a famous British admiral associated with the warship HMS Dreadnought, someone the judge admired. It was just a little Easter egg hidden in a high court ruling about secret codes. Life imitating art.
That is absolutely wild. A judge trolling everyone in a multi-million-pound plagiarism case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, were there other lawsuits besides Bagent and Leigh?
Yes, a couple of others. Author Lewis Purdue sued, claiming Brown plagiarized his earlier novels, The Da Vinci Legacy, published 1983, and Daughter of God.
Similar themes again.
Very similar themes, yes. Religious conspiracies, hidden bloodlines, secret societies. Another author, Jack Dunn, sued over similarities to his book, The Vatican Boys.
What happened with those cases?
Both were dismissed. Judges basically ruled that the similarities were either too general, dealing with broad historical ideas or conspiracy theories that are in the public domain, or that the specific expression wasn't copied closely enough to constitute copyright infringement.
So Brown successfully fought off all the major plagiarism challenges.
Legally, yes. His defense often boiled down to the principle that history cannot be plagiarized. You can't copyright facts or historical theories.
But the general feeling among critics remained.
The consensus, even among those who acknowledged Brown won legally, was still that the Da Vinci Code draws very heavily from other better books. Many saw it as essentially a rehash of other writers' theories and research turned into a fictional mystery.
So he didn't invent the core ideas, but he packaged them brilliantly for a mass audience.
Exactly. He took existing, often fringe, theories and wove them into an incredibly successful, accessible thriller format. That was his genius, perhaps the packaging and the pacing, not necessarily the originality of the underlying concepts.
Okay, so we've got through the phenomena, the writing, the historical claims, the art, the legal battles. Let's bring it all together. What does this whole Da Vinci Code saga teach us, especially looking back now? What's the takeaway for us as people trying to navigate information today?
That's the big so what question, isn't it? Why did this book, with all its documented inaccuracies and criticized writing, become such a monumental success?
Yeah, what drove it?
I think there are a few key reasons, often working together. Firstly, the irresistible allure of the secret.
We just love conspiracy theories.
We love the idea of uncovering something hidden, something forbidden, that feeling that we now know the real story that's been suppressed. The Da Vinci Code played that card masterfully.
Okay, the thrill of the secret. What else?
Controversy. Pure and simple. Controversy sells.
All publicity is good publicity.
To an extent, yes. Every time the Vatican denounced it, every time scholars wrote articles debunking it, it just fueled more interest. People felt they had to read it to see what the fuss was about. It plugged into existing debates about religion, history, power, and just poured gasoline on them.
Made it feel relevant, urgent almost.
Exactly. Third, and we shouldn't underestimate this, sheer entertainment value.
Just a good yarn.
For millions of people, absolutely. They didn't necessarily believe the historical claims or even care that much. They just wanted a fast-paced, exciting thriller, an escape, an action flick in book form, like you said earlier.
Like watching Indiana Jones, you don't expect a history lesson, you want adventure.
Precisely. They read it as fiction, enjoyed it as fiction, and moved on. As one reader put it, an entertaining thriller with fictional ideas vaguely based but not grounded on history. That sums up the experience for many.
Okay. Secrets, controversy, entertainment. Anything else?
There's maybe a deeper psychological layer, too. Saul Bellow, the novelist, had that great quote, "A great deal of intelligence can be invested in ignorance if the need for illusion is deep."
The need for illusion. What does that mean here?
Maybe for some people, there's a deep-seated need to believe in something other than the mundane, accepted version of reality. Maybe they distrust authority. Maybe they crave a sense of mystery or romance in history. The book offered a compelling alternative narrative that resonated with that need, regardless of factual accuracy.
A desire for a more exciting, perhaps more meaningful, hidden story underneath the surface.
Possibly, yeah. It tapped into that desire for wonder, or maybe just the desire to challenge the establishment.
And the impact was huge, but also kind of mixed, wasn't it?
Definitely mixed. On one side, you absolutely had millions of people walking away with a significantly distorted view of Christian history, art history, the nature of these organizations.
That's the negative impact historians worried about.
Right. But on the other side, you had religious groups, Catholic and others, actually using the book's popularity as a springboard.
Oh.
They saw it as an opportunity. Okay, people are interested in Jesus, Mary Magdalene, early church history. Let's use this moment to educate them on what we actually believe, what the real history is. Some even used it as an evangelism tool, a way to start conversations about faith.
So turning a potentially negative thing into a teaching moment,
Exactly. It became this massive cultural conversation starter, for better or worse.
which ultimately highlights the importance of
Well,
critical thinking.
absolutely. Media literacy. The whole Da Vinci Code phenomenon is a giant case study in why it's so important to question what you read, especially when it blurs the lines between fact and fiction.
Even if it's presented with that veneer of truth.
Especially then. Enjoy the story, enjoy the entertainment, nothing wrong with that. But it's crucial to ask questions, check sources, understand when something is a narrative designed to thrill versus an account based on evidence.
You can even see reading the book as the start of your own investigation.
Totally. Let it be a side quest, like you said.
Right.
Let it prompt you to read actual history, look at real art historical analysis, explore theology. But know the difference. Know when you're reading fiction presented like fact, like the Blair Witch Project did for horror films versus documented reality.
So from global smash hit with that addictive, if flawed, style, through all the firestorms over history, religion, art, right down to the courtroom dramas, the Da Vinci Code was undeniably a cultural force.
A lightning rod, absolutely. It captivated, it infuriated, it sparked endless debate, and definitely left its mark.
Which brings us to maybe one final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Go for it.
The Da Vinci Code proved, didn't it, that a really compelling story, even one built on shaky factual foundations, can powerfully shape how millions see the world, maybe even more powerfully than dry academic facts sometimes can.
That's a sobering thought, but probably true. Narrative is powerful.
So the question to ponder is, what other widely accepted ideas or facts floating around in our culture might actually be rooted more in engaging fiction, popular myth, or clever storytelling than in rigorous verified history? And in this age of constant information flow, how do you personally tell the difference? What tools do you use to make sure your understanding is built on solid ground and not just in the most captivating story?